Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college football week number 8 upset alert, where I put certain teams on potential upset watch. Beginning with the big game of the day, it's at noon, Ohio State, Penn State, 7v3. Certainly, I really don't think this is an upset type scenario, even if Penn State wins. I mean, Ohio State's sitting -4.5, possibly -4, depending on which sports book you look at. I do like Penn State to keep this game very close. The issues I have with Penn State come down to their lack of explosive offense, especially with the receivers, and also Ohio State. They've really done a great job at limiting explosive plays. So when you combine both of those things, it's going to take Penn State to have like a really good third down percentage to win this game, because they're going to have significantly long sustained drives considering the lack of receiver weapons, along with just the lack of explosive plays in general. And then you have Ohio State now this year completely changing the Jim Knowles idea. Last year they were fine with allowing explosive plays. Now they're not allowing anything, over 20 yards. I like that in terms of Ohio State, but then also Ohio State sitting with Kyle McCord, very streaky, very inconsistent, underthrows a lot of passes. It does look like he is getting more confidence. He looked decent at Purdue, but certainly Penn State, they've got a very sound, really good defense. The over-under in this game sitting at 46.5. I don't remember when the last time an Ohio State over-under was that low, probably like 3 or 4 years. But either way, I will take the Buckeyes to win, not to cover. Really, this is a toss-up. I think everyone believes that this is a toss-up. There are some analytical models that actually like Penn State to win this game outright, although Penn State, I mean, you can say, yeah, they crushed Iowa. I just don't think Penn State has that big of a win. And then Ohio State, they did beat Notre Dame, but it was a very kind of last-second lucky win. They converted a 4th and 19. Moving on to another noon game, it is Air Force coming in, ranked for the first time this season at number 22, traveling to Navy. The over-under in this game all the way down to 34.5. Air Force minus the 10. I believe they've been bet up to -10.5, and I would be concerned if I was Air Force. Certainly, I made the prediction in the preseason. I said Air Force would go undefeated. I'll be rooting for them. They're my team. It would be awesome to see them go undefeated and make a New Year's Six Bowl, but this is a game where it's a rivalry. There's going to be very limited possessions. The last thing you can do if you're Air Force is fumble the football, turn over the ball. You are the more talented team. It's just one of those games you got to be wary. You're finally ranked. Navy's not very good, but again, limited possessions. Both teams are going to be running the ball. Noon start time, lower scoring. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. Air Force, they got to be on guard against that Navy squad. Moving on to the 3:30 window, it is Oregon -20. So this is just the typical narrative game. Oregon coming off an extremely emotional loss. Big favorites at home, 3:30, 12:30 Pacific start time. Washington State absolutely destroyed 44-6 at home against an unranked team. But this Washington State team is not that bad. I think you're getting them at a little bit of a discount. And we've seen in the past Washington State play Oregon very well. It's going to be a higher scoring game. Washington State will be better on offense, and it'll be relatively close. I do like Oregon, though, to pull this one out. Moving on to the 7 o'clock window, it is Ole Miss traveling to Auburn. So Ole Miss is coming off their bye. They have one loss. Auburn, on the other hand, listen, we all know Auburn is an absolute train wreck, but this is the SEC at night. It's a strange spread with Ole Miss minus the 6, and I am taking Auburn. The reason this prediction is being made, honestly, is just because college football is unpredictable. I have no faith in Auburn to win this game. It's just a situation where we've seen Ole Miss lose games like this in the past. Maybe Auburn at Jordan-Hare, at night, with the noise, they get a turnover, they get something fluky to happen, and they end up winning this game by 3. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Next, we do have Minnesota and Iowa, so unfortunately, this is a little bit out of order. This is a 3:30 game. Iowa sitting -5.5. I think Iowa could lose any week. I think Iowa, honestly, could lose to like UMass because their offense is that bad. Now, of course, their defense is really good, but in general, I don't think they're covering a 5.5 point spread. I don't think there's that many points scored in this game.
game. Yes, it's a little bit of a troll going with a 4-3 final score, but guys, we love the under 31 in this one. Minnesota can't score, Iowa can't score. It's going to be, Iowa can't even throw.
So that should be a very low scoring game. And then finally, we've got Florida State sitting minus 14. No, I do not think this is going to be an upset. So when it comes to a game like this, FSU has kind of had some scares in the past, but with a team like Florida State, it seems like they get up for the bigger ones. They're going to be at home, 7:30 ABC, a ranked matchup, and it seems like this is just such an amazing chance for Florida State with a potentially injured Riley Leonard, let alone already the big talent gap that Duke faces. Seems like a prime opportunity for FSU to really flex their muscle and get kind of an impressive win, but we'll see with Riley Leonard. If Riley Leonard is seriously hampered, or especially if he doesn't play, I'm really not putting much stock in this at all. Florida State, of course, they are likely to finish undefeated, but we will see, considering they did have that close game against Boston College. They've underperformed in a few games, but recently they have been better. I see there's no way, based on the Riley Leonard injury, of this being an upset. I have FSU covering that 14 relatively easily. Also, Duke last week, you can say they won against NC State, and they did have a nice defensive performance, but number one, it's NC State, and number two, you're talking about Duke's backup quarterback completing like 5 passes. That's just not going to work against FSU. And then moving on to my top parlays of the week, you can take a look at this first one. This is a 4-teamer. We like the under in the Wisconsin-Illinois game. This game's going to be brutal to watch. This is a noon game, too. This would be an 11 a.m. Central start time. Two bad offenses, defensive-minded teams. The under 42, Wisconsin starting their backup QB, Tanner Mordecai, out for a while now. We also do like the under in Boston College at Georgia Tech. Not sure why that number's been juiced up to 59.5. I understand Boston College has had some decent showings on offense, but certainly they're not that good. 59.5 is a big number. You do have Arkansas on the money line, minus 235. Mississippi State this year is terrible, and Arkansas, it's been a situation where they have, it's been unfortunate with their schedule and how hard it's been. And then we will also take Alabama on the money line to parlay that. Minus the 330. I think they beat Tennessee pretty handily there. Moving on to the 16 parlay, Akron plus the 7.5. Great value play on the road at a bad Bowling Green team. Both of those teams are bad, but we'll still take Akron to cover the 7.5. The under 31, of course, Minnesota, Iowa. Really nothing else needs to be said. That opened at 31.5. It's been bet down. I think it's going to continue to go down. It might go down to 29.5, honestly. FSU minus the 700 versus Duke on the money line. Certainly, it's just a bad spot for Duke dealing with the Riley Leonard injury. It's hard to predict injuries. They were saying he might miss 2 or 3 weeks. We're kind of at that 2-week threshold. So is he healthy? Is he not healthy? Is he going to try and gut it out? Is he going to risk re-injuring himself? It's just hard to really gauge that. We will take the over in Washington State at Oregon. I like a lot of points to be scored in that one. Oregon possibly into the 40s, maybe even the 50s to get an easy over. Clemson money line at Miami. It just feels like Miami, with the way their season has gone, they're going to lose this game. Clemson is a solid team. I know they've had a few weeks recently where it was kind of iffy. They didn't cover a few weeks ago. They had a bye last week, but I'll take them. And then USC on the money line against Utah. They are due for a better offensive performance. They've just got such a more talented overall offense than Utah. Utah averaging about 250 yards of offense. That's not going to work on the road at Caleb Williams, even with kind of the overreactions happening right now with Lincoln Riley. This will be a good narrative changer for Lincoln Riley to win this game easily. And would you take a look at that? If I win this, look at that. I'm going to be a millionaire if I win this. Wow. That would be crazy. And then moving on to the final one, it is Houston plus 23.5. So this game opened at 20, and I was like, oh, did it open at 22? Okay, that makes more sense if it opened at 20. Yeah, I think it did. So still, people are betting on Texas in this game, and I like Houston. It's kind of a weird matchup, Houston, Texas, right? But either way, it just feels like Houston, after their win against West Virginia, at home, it's another home game for them. They're facing a Texas team that's going to be looking ahead. We understand Texas is coming off of a bye, but I think Houston can keep this game close in the first half.
which will enable them to cover in that one. Nebraska minus the 11.5 versus Northwestern. So I think Nebraska, the last time they faced Northwestern, they just destroyed them, and I'm expecting that again. Nebraska really isn't that terrible of a team. Northwestern is kind of streaky. Like some games, I mean, they almost lost to Howard University, but then other games they'll be in. I don't know. I like Nebraska big in that one. Auburn on the money line. Yeah, that's probably not a great bet, but plus 195. But, maybe they pull off the upset, and then we will go in on Ohio State on the money line, and I could possibly win. I mean, 16 cents, it's no big thing, but I'll take it if I can win it. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.